I had to park across the street. I'm sorry.
No,
No, I had to park across the street. That's why I'm late.
Oh, that, yeah.
I parked over there and walked, get my steps in.
My list. Yeah, I was here earlier.
You know, I had to park over there today.
Hey,
Allison, I was late, so it was all my fault.
Jesus, man, steps out there.
Can I get one of those watches? Obviously, you saw yesterday, I believe, with the injury stuff, with Dahlman going on the IR, Caleb not. We'll see where we get with that and where we're at with that. And then obviously we signed Elijah Wilkinson to our team, to the 53. Although those guys are all considered on the team. And we got Hennessy back on our practice squad.
And what was Caleb able to do anything today, or what's?
I'll see that today. Obviously, not IR. We'll get a chance to see where we're at today and what we're doing. When we get to our walkthrough, we get to our practice, things of that nature. That's the benefit of talking before practice, so I don't have to tell you anything.
Yeah, try. So how do you feel about Ryan Newsom stepping into a full-time role there? We started 3 games last year.
I'm always excited about the guys getting opportunities to go out there and play. News stepped in the game, did a fine job. Obviously, when you're not the starter, you got to act like you are the starter. You got to prepare to be ready. And I was very pleased with News going out there and being able to get done some things that you can get done. Obviously, he'll have things that he'll want to correct. The coaches have things they want to correct. But we'll get out there and we'll compete at the highest level with those guys.
And if Caleb can't go, how did Storm do in his role coming in the game and taking about?
Same as what I just said. Obviously there's always little corrections with anybody, but particularly when you're a new guy going out there getting those reps full time, going out there doing it every single snap with your guys, there'll always be small, minor details, particularly when you're talking about the details of the game plan and what you put into that, and getting the limited amount of reps that you got. Really excited about those guys getting a full week of practice and going out there and potentially playing. And have an opportunity to do those things. So we'll see where we're at with obviously Storm. Obviously News will be the guy going out there for us this week.
Because of the way that this offensive line room is constructed and how close those guys are with lead and kind of the cult-like is not the right word. But
It is exactly the right word.
Okay.
And it's how I describe it all the time,
Okay.
Tori, so you're perfectly fine.
Because of the environment that they built in that room, how important and how much was it in the back of yours and Terry's head to bring up specifically Elijah Wilkinson and then to sign Matt Hennessy to the practice squad, considering that those guys have been in that room before, so you're not inserting someone in there that you don't necessarily know fits the culture of that room? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So, Tori, we definitely always take into that environment in that room because that's like a part of our ethos, part of our culture, part of what we are and who we are. But I do believe Wilkinson's a really good player, and we found a way to get him up on the roster when you lose Dahlman. Other than that, bringing in a guy like Hennessy that has some really banked reps with the guys like Led, with guys like Nick Jones, with guys like Flats, bringing him back into that room when he was able to establish himself as a guy that the room had loved and also had turned himself into a pretty productive player. The last time I saw him, he was a rookie, and he looked like a completely different human when he walked into the lunchroom the other day. I was pretty excited about that. And then getting a chance to watch him work, getting a chance to know if we had something that we had to get him going pretty quickly, we can catch him up to speed, all those things come into the factor. But certainly that room definitely plays a factor into it. And that's a sign of a good room, when you got guys that want to play with each other and you can pick out guys that you've had in that room before and be able to get those guys from wherever they're coming from or what they've been doing and get them back inserted into that room is always a good thing for us.
Coach, the Saints have been really sharp on third down and in the red zone. I know it's kind of a small sample size, but I know you're always looking to execute in those areas, but is that kind of a more magnified aspect?
We talking about our offense?
Just kind of on third down and in the red zone against
both sides of the ball.
Both sides of the ball.
Yeah, so on third down on offense, we have not been very good. And that is definitely an emphasis for us just in general to keep drives going so we can maintain and get through possessions and get down there and get some more time of possession. We'll get more plays. We'll keep the defense off the grass more and some of those things. From a defense perspective, when you're just talking about us first, Will, you got to say we got to get off the grass more so we can give our guys more time of possession. We can give our guys more chances to get after it. We can do all of those things, right? So just from a team standpoint and a complementary football, to still a word, we got to get those things going just for us first. Now, when you talk about the other guys, they are gray matter. Even though these guys are very good at those areas, we got to go out there and win those situations. When you're talking about the red zone, that's talking about points. So that is what we needed last week. That is what we needed the first week, and we got to figure out a way to score more points in the opposition.
How do you practice like improving on third downs, like during practice? Is it something, can you practice that, or is it just?
It's really emphasis, Allison, when you talk about it. You know, it's the who's, the what's, the getting comfortable. It's what the other person does, it's what you can do to kind of get away from that. How do you win versus the coverage that you're getting? It's staying out of the really bad ones, right? When you see those certain amount of numbers and high up, you know, it's getting out of those situations, staying out of those. It's trying to get ways to be efficient on first down in order to get to the manageable ones and being good on those ones. And the ones that you have to get, that were the ones we didn't get last week, the short yardage ones, right? Those are the ones that determine good and bad, right? And if we would have got a 3rd down and 1 last week or a 4th and 1, we'd be very good, and we're not.
How do you balance wanting to improve time of possession but also scoring quickly?
You don't. You score quickly. You know, you score as quick as you can in this league. You can't look at that. You know, score points is the name of the goal. Being efficient and staying efficient on it, staying ahead of the chain, staying ahead of the sticks. You got to be able to do those things. The reasons the Saints were very good on offense the first couple of weeks, they were explosive. They also had great time possession running the football. I don't think you think about balancing what you do. I think when the explosive plays happen, you let them happen and you score touchdowns when you can.
It's more so up to the defense getting off the field quickly?
It's a combination of them both. You know, it's always going to be complementary, but getting off the grass and maintaining drives when you're being efficient is all stuff that play into actually time possession and keeping that thing in your favor.
You watch New Orleans on tape, what impressive.
Sorry. And also special teams, right? When you're talking about coverage, right? That's the new thing with what's going on right now, right? Whether you're deciding to kick the ball off and pin people inside the 30, you know, to figure out how you can get the ball back for your defense to set them up to be able to punt, right? Because a lot of times you're seeing right now has become a lot of 4th down games and people are going for it or taking the long field goals because of I forget who asked, but the outrageous kickers nowadays, right? So those things all factor into time possession, how you maintain the ball, all the things that happen in football. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just thought of something for Taryn.
All good. When you watch New Orleans, what stands out to you about what Clint Kubiak's installing there?
He's absolutely done a great job, right? It's the very similar system that you guys all know from Kyle Shanahan. Very similar system from his dad. Very similar system from his dad and Mike Shanahan. Very similar system what they've been doing their whole life. So, like, Kyle was born into it. He was born into it. They grew up doing it. They grew up coaching it. They grew up around it. Obviously, starts with the zone scheme, goes to the keepers, and then what they do really well. And they're the type of people that they're always going to do not what they've always done, but what's best for the team at the time. And that's exactly what he's doing right now, and exactly what I was expecting from him.
Both these teams are going to be without their starting centers. Obviously, he's talking about Drew and Eric McCoy has gone on IR for them. For someone who doesn't pay attention to a lot of interior offensive line work, like for fans, like what is the importance of a center in the NFL league?
You know, the continuity, you know, the person, depending on what he does for your team, does he make the calls? Does he calm down your quarterback? Does he have the numbered reps with the QB? Does he have the numbered reps with the O-line? You know, last week we went out there, for example, and jumped off sides right away just based off a late snap or a late snap count or a late snap point. And those are the things where it's about the reps and the accumulation of time of those guys being together. The controlling of the mic points, being able to redirect, being able to help out, having another visual aid on the field for that quarterback so it's not all on him, right? You wouldn't ask Drake London to point out the protection, but you would actually ask the center to be able to help in those situations or him to be able to change it to get you more efficient with the shot clock and some of those things. So there's a lot goes into that position. There's a lot goes into what we do when it comes to actually plan it and how you want to plan it and who you got back there with you.
How much have you looked or watched the final play against the Chiefs on that 4th and 1? I mean, did you see kind of why there was a last-minute change made?
Yeah, you know, what do you mean, the last-minute change?
Like Bajan was kind of saying that he was, I think, Kirk made a change?
I can't tell you that. You know, it's like looks that you get on the grass, and then you go out there and you canvas those looks, and then you want to find the certain looks that you want to run certain plays to. Absolutely been in the right place if we blocked Bolton, but we did not. And if you get that guy blocked, we might be walking around the edge right now. And Allison, we've throwing a pool party. And we'll all be having fun out here in Atlanta, but we're not. And they made a great play. Bolton made a great play. Good defense for those guys. Bad look for us. Got to tip your hat off to those guys when they make those kind of plays, like I did to Andy Reid at the end of the game.
The offense has been pretty smooth on some series, like last against Philadelphia, the first one on Sunday night against the Chiefs. How do you kind of like be more consistent? Like how does that work? What worked on those drives and what has not worked, I guess, on some of the other?
The efficiency of it all. You know, the two completely different drives, right? The 2.2 minute drive at the end of the game in the Eagles was absolutely awesome. Started off with a completion, got a few explosives, got down to the red zone, executed, and scored a touchdown. You come out the other day, you remain efficient. I don't even know if we had a third down in that first possession. You go right down the field, you're efficient, the stuff that we're talking about. You go into there, you get into the red zone, you execute a play, you get there with a screen and go to Drake. Touchdown, right? Two very different situations, two very different spots in the field, and it's just about being consistent in those areas and being able to do it. Everybody's not doing it that way. You don't have to be efficient on every drive, but it'd be nice to be able to find a way to be more efficient as possible so you can look like that as an offense throughout the game and not have those lows, right? I can't remember exactly when we hit the lows. I trying to put that away, and you keep bringing it back, Mark. But it was a low where it was like punt off the grass, and those are lows you got to stay away from, if you know what I mean. That helps time of possession also.
Are you a big analytics guy?
It's hard to say not a big analytics guy. I'm a big tape guy, right? I love to watch the tape. I love to be able to evaluate the stuff, but definitely want to listen to the analytics. You know, Danny, we got Leskin, some of the guys we got here, they give you some great information that you can look at, evaluate. You can actually take what you can use, you know, and what's able to be taken out of it. What can you use on the grass? What can you use live? What can you use right now that can help you and be able to use those games? You know, I'm not just going to go strictly analytics. Some of us are feel, you know, and at that time, at the end of the game, you know, I didn't care what analytics saying. We got 4th and an inch, bro. Like, let's go knock the champs out, right? Let's not try to win by decision. You know, that was the choice we made. So, like, there it is.
You listen to the analytics community, they you know, said stuff like, you know, maybe Kirk's drop back depth is not, you know, as
Nah, I don't get that far into it.
that type of stuff. Like, do you play into that at all? And, like,
I don't get into the depths of that realm, you know.
Is there anything to that? Like, is there anything where, you know, maybe he's not as mobile, or is that by design of?
That is a good question for somebody a lot smarter than me, sounds like.
Where are you after like a loss? Like Kirk, you know, Kirk says he's like jumping in immediately and launching stuff. Like, what do you need to like step away? Do you dive in immediately? Like,
You make me talk to you.
well, not immediately. After you talk to us.
So I come talk to you and do my taxi cab confessions to you guys. Led tries to get me fined. You go through the process of just really making yourself go into an even killed mode, and then I got to deal with David sitting there trying to calm everybody down. You know, you really go through all tales of emotions, whether it's a win, whether it's a loss, and then you settle yourself down. You're able to talk to everybody and go through that whole process, and then after everything happens, it's really the calming period for you before you get right into the evaluation, so you don't make hasty decisions and things off of spur of the moment moments. And really, to quite be honest, I call my coordinators and my guys that are decision makers and kind of just talk to those guys and just really try to lead in the best way that I know how. And really is to be encouraging, is to be vulnerable, is to admit to your faults, to allow that open air so we can all be about that process for us all. And then it's no different when you talk to Mr. Blank and absolutely hit him with the truth and hit him right between the eyes exactly how you saw it and how you dealt and what your plan was and why it didn't work or why it did work, or whatever the case may be. And then after that, you move on. And then once you move on, you're on to the next week until Mark brings you back to talk about it all over again. All this stuff is a process. You know, it just kind of happens. And some of it happens that night. And then you see your kids and everything goes away. And then you get back in the office and it comes right back because you got to talk to Led again. And then you're able to go through the process of, you probably already watched the tape probably 2 or 3 times at that point. And then you're able to go over with your coaches, you know, with us together and Terry and I and whoever else is a part of that, and go through that process. And then we get to this point where we can go practice again and get ready for the next opponent.
Combined record of the teams you guys have played is 8-1. That's not really a deep analytic. It's 8-1. And you guys are the one, you know, against Philly. Do you walk away from that saying, like, okay, you know, we're hanging with some of the best teams in the NFL, or are you saying, like, we had a chance to win all 3 of those games? Damn.
Mark is a process for me, man. Like, they're all learning opportunities, right? What do we learn from Pittsburgh? You better block T.J. Watt, right? What do we learn from Philly? Don't stop. Stay resilient. Keep fighting. You never know what's going to happen. What do you learn from the Chiefs, right? Hey, this game comes down to inches. Not to give you Al Pacino, but it does, right? And, like, there's still no guarantee we score if we get the first down, but it gives us a lot better chance to. So, like, every single thing is a learning experience. And Josh is looking at me like, oh, man, that was pretty good. But that's just the truth of the matter, right? And then, like, you better go out this week and you better prepare for the Saints, because you go look at it and say our opponents were 8-1, these guys are 2-1 or whatever they are, right? And they have been absolutely blowing their doors off for people or playing a close game. And, like, the league is the league, and it will be that way every single week.
Which is 3 straight division games coming up. It's kind of the heart of the division schedule is starting right now.
I love it. Starting with one first, but that is definitely an astute observation, right? The division's coming in town, and we better be ready to deal because this will determine a lot about us at the end of it all. And but right now we better focus on New Orleans Saints.
Coach, you talk-
The uniqueness of this rivalry, but for the fans, it's kind of a special game on the schedule. And you, having been here before, you experienced this, so just it's kind of set aside for the fans. You know?
It is always a tough battle with those guys. You know, they got a lot of familiar faces that's just been there over the years. There's been a lot of familiar people that's been able to be a part of both buildings in this rivalry. Terry being one of them, Brian Pace, a bunch of guys like that. Myself being in the Atlanta building before. Rizzy, the special teams coordinator, been there forever. And it's just a lot of people that got a lot of built up, anxious, love to play, hate you mentality, right? Some of the players are still there that we can talk about. That end, I'm not going to name his name, but he's been there, and that's just a joke, so don't make that a big thing in the media. That guy is extremely talented, and he is a saint in all rights of the word. And it's just a built-up rivalry, man, when you go to play against these guys. It's been special for a long time, and hopefully to continue to be special. You know, Dennis Allen's been there 2 different occasions. You know, I've been here 2 different occasions. You know, the ownership hadn't changed. It's just a big deal. It's just a real cool rivalry down here in the South.
Coach Alvin Kamara is another one of those players.
Golly, why'd you even say his name? We're not saying their names. Like, he's another just devil of a human, right, that you got to stop.
He's, you know, pretty versatile. You, being a former wide receivers coach, how would you evaluate Kamara as a receiver?
You know, it's hard to even call him a receiver. You know, just his ability to get open, his subtle change of direction, his ability to move, his extreme contact balance, which is very well displayed on Instagram. He's outstanding. Now, he's an outstanding player. He's been that way for a very long time. We have drafted players just to cover him. Let's just be honest. And he's been a focal point of what we've been doing around here for a long time.
What do you notice about the way that Derek Carr is playing right now?
Derek Carr, when clean and everything is going right, he is an absolute stud in this league. You know, you got to affect the passer, and that goes for everybody. But if you can find a way to affect him, I have some very highly competitive battles versus Derek Carr throughout the years, whether he's been in Oakland, wherever he's been. Now with Saint, last year versus him, when we jumped ahead and he came roaring back. And so we got to find ways to affect Derek Carr, and he's playing very well.
How much of your defensive prep is determined by the experience at quarterback? Do you find yourself that you prepare differently as a defensive coach if you're facing a guy who's been around for 10 years versus a guy who's been around for?
I don't know, Josh. That is a very hard question. I go through a process, right? And I think we all have a sort of a process. And at the end of it, you come out with a result and then what it takes to win this game. And when you come out with what it takes, it definitely is different between whether the quarterback's been a 10-year guy or he's been a rookie or a 2-year guy. But I don't know if the absolute approach changes. And I tried to give you some well thought-out answer right there, but the true answer is I don't know.
All right, close down. We got time for.
All right, guys.